In this video, we're going to go over the top 10 spices for preppers. Spices provide flavor to food and also have health benefits. This list is not going to include salt and pepper, as those are mandatory items in my opinion. For example, I think it's a good idea to have a 5-gallon bucket filled with salt. Salt has an indefinite shelf life when stored properly. It's much more economical to purchase the spices in bulk at places like Costco or at restaurant supply stores, versus those tiny little jars that you could get over at the grocery store. Happy Preppers has a fantastic article on spices for preppers, link in the description box. There's also a lot of great videos from other YouTubers with regard to their top spices. However, this is my official top 10 spices for preppers. Let's get started. At number 1, we have cinnamon. Cinnamon has a lot of different uses, ranging from breakfast to desserts. Happy Prepper states, cinnamon, essential for oatmeal, cinnamon sugar toast, and baking. You'll find cinnamon also has medicinal uses, the most notable being helping diabetics help overcome their disease. Cinnamon is the second most popular spice next to black pepper in America. I go with the powder form, although I think the sticks do have a longer shelf life. At number 2, we have garlic powder. I love using garlic. Whenever it's called for in a recipe, whatever it lists in the recipe, I usually double or quadruple it. It's packed with antioxidants, and it has great overall flavor. You should definitely try to grow garlic in your home garden, but having the powdered variety is a nice option as well. At number 3, we have onions, the dried chopped version. Onions are another one of those items that I put in a lot of the various recipes that I make. This dried chopped flake version works really well if you happen to not have a fresh onion on you. It's super convenient to help provide some flavor to your dishes. At number 4, we have bay leaves. In most of the dishes I prepare, it usually calls for 1 to 2 bay leaves. They help provide extra flavor to things like soups and stews. I was able to get a humongous jug of bay leaves over at my local smart food service warehouse for less than $8. This could last me for a very long time, and I can even give away some. We need to have a little bit of spice, so at number 5, I have cayenne pepper. You could also go with the crushed red pepper flakes, although we find that we use the cayenne pepper more. Cayenne pepper will provide the much needed heat that you're going to want for some of your dishes. It also has some health benefits too. So at number 5, I've included cayenne pepper. At number 6, I have dill. Now we like using dill for fish and for other dishes. It also works really great in potato salad. And if you're a prepper, you're probably trying to grow some potatoes. But the main reason that I have this one included in the top 10 list is because of its use with pickling. If you have a home garden, you're going to probably start pickling things like green beans and cucumbers and things like that. While I do grow my own dill in our herb garden, it's nice to have a bulk amount of it. So this dill could be used for all of those vegetables that you're harvesting and canning. At number 7, I have dried oregano. I use oregano in almost all of my Italian dishes. I also use it in many soups that we make. It's one of those spices that I like having in bulk, and I usually go through it fairly quickly. You could also use it in breads. And number 8, we have chili powder. Most preppers like storing rice and beans, and you're going to want to have that chili powder for providing some flavor to those beans. There's a few different types of chili powder that you could get. I just go with the basic chili powder that doesn't really have that much spice to it, but it does provide much needed flavor to beans, which is important for me as a prepper. At number 9, I have basil. This is another one of those spices that I use in a lot of my dishes, especially Italian ones. We do grow basil in our home garden, but I also like having the dried variety. I'll put it in things like soups and spaghettis. This is another one of those spices that I go through fairly quickly because I use it quite often. So again, at number 9, we have basil. And at number 10, we have kind of a wild card spice, and that's turmeric. I'm including this one due to its health benefits that it provides. Costco has a great liquid form of turmeric that I drink in the morning. You could also get it added to smoothies. As Happy Prepper states, turmeric is a healing spice for preppers that since biblical times has been used for making perfume and clothing coloring. I've been liking adding a little bit of turmeric in a lot of my dishes to give it a little bit of coloring and to also provide that added health benefits. And those are the top 10 spices that I have for preppers. Now I do have some honorable mentions that didn't quite make my top 10 list. Those include spices like ginger, cumin, parsley, and rosemary. I could have easily made a top 15 or top 20 list, but I tried to narrow it down to the top 10. For this list, I tried sticking to single spices and seasonings instead of combinations. For example, I probably would have had Johnny seasoning as number 1 because I use it all the time. I also didn't include something like Italian seasoning, which I also use a lot. In my top 10 list, I didn't use some of those spices where you just have a tiny little jar and it goes a really long way. For example, a lot of people like stocking up on paprika. We just use paprika with our deviled eggs, and I don't eat that many deviled eggs to warrant having a humongous container of it. For us, the same goes with ginger and cloves. So I tried to focus more on those bulk spices that I go through quickly. As mentioned in previous videos, I also like using various Hispanic seasonings like adobo and sazon. The nice thing with a lot of the spices that I've included is that you could actually grow them in your garden, which would be a better method. So things like the powdered garlic, the dried onions, the dill, the basil, those could all be grown in your home garden. So you should definitely start a home garden if you don't already have one. But in summary, spices are a good thing to include in your emergency prep supplies. Oftentimes us preppers are just talking about rice and beans and other bland foods, and we're going to want to add some much needed flavor to those dishes. Historically, spices were used because people weren't able to preserve foods because they didn't have refrigerators. And sometimes those spices were used just to help mask the taste of rancid food. Fortunately now we do have refrigeration and we're able to preserve foods. So we're specifically using these spices for flavors. But that's my list of the top 10 spices and seasonings for preppers. I imagine that your top 10 list would be a little bit different, so please leave a comment below in the comment section regarding this video and list out what you think are the top 10 spices for preppers to store for their long-term food storage. Leave your comment below in the comment section and stay tuned for more videos. See you guys next time.